Okay. Wow. It's been quite the buzz lately, hasn't it?
Oh, definitely. Big news.
Yeah, news that's really sent shockwaves through the music world. After 15 years, it feels like this massive hole in rock music might actually be, well, filled.
It does. Oasis is back.
Exactly. Oasis is back. And the clamor, that almost desperate feeling from rock fans everywhere wanting them back, it seems like it's finally been answered.
It's a pretty electric moment, you know? This reunion, it isn't just like, oh, a band's getting back together.
No, it feels bigger.
It really does. It's more like this huge testament to their legacy, right?
Yeah.
And the almost mythic power that rock and roll still has to just grab generations.
Absolutely. For so many people, Oasis just was the sound, the mood, the whole attitude. Few bands have ever really matched that.
True. Very true.
So today we're doing a deep dive into one of the absolute legends of rock music from the 90s, Oasis.
Yep.
We're going to explore, why they became such a massive phenomenon, the lasting impact their music's had, like, globally.
Yeah.
The infamous, let's be honest, pretty legendary reasons they broke up.
Oh, yeah.
And what's actually driving this massive 2025 reunion tour that everyone's talking about.
And our mission here, for this deep dive is really to unpack what made Oasis, that enduring legacy.
Right.
Understand that turbulent, but undeniably captivating chemistry they had.
That's the word, captivating.
Definitely. And then see how this comeback fits into the bigger picture of the music industry today, which is always changing.
And we've got some great sources to help us do that. We're looking at an academic journal on urban culture and the live music business.
Which is pretty interesting context.
Yeah, really is. Plus, recent articles detailing the reunion itself and even some really passionate fan discussions we found online, places like Reddit, gives you that ground level view.
You get the real fan reaction there.
Totally. So whether you're a longtime fan, maybe you remember the whole Britpop thing firsthand.
Yeah, the good old days.
Or maybe you're just curious about, how these rock legends tick, the dynamics, or even just interested in how the music business keeps adapting. This deep dive, it's your shortcut.
Yep. We'll get you up to speed. Got some surprising facts, different perspectives all lined up.
All right, let's dive in. Okay, so how did Oasis become this rock titan? When we talk about them blowing up in the 90s, it wasn't just about, selling records, was it?
No, not at all. They were one of the dominant British acts, for sure.
Yeah.
And that sound.
Yeah.
Those huge sing-along rock choruses. It just pulled people in.
It really did. But what was it about that sound, or maybe just them, their whole vibe, that made them such a force? What set them apart back then?
Well, that's where it gets interesting, isn't it? Like you said, it wasn't just the music. They really captured a moment. For a lot of people, Oasis felt like this raw, unapologetic counter story to what else was going on. Think about it. Grunge was huge, but often quite dark, introspective.
Yeah, definitely.
Britpop, the whole movement they kind of led. And for listeners maybe not familiar, that was this big 90s UK thing, lots of guitar bands. Britpop was more about, British identity, swagger, optimism.
And Oasis wasn't just in Britpop.
No, they practically defined its most anthemic, working class, straight up rock edge. Their choruses weren't just catchy. They were built to be screamed back by thousands of people in a field.
Right. Communal.
Exactly. It was like this collective, we can do this kind of defiance.
That sense of defiance, yeah, and that connection to sort of ordinary life, the working class. It was so strong, you felt it in everything.
Totally. They weren't just making songs. They were giving people an identity, someone to rally around.
Yeah.
So their appeal, it really went way beyond the music. They were a genuine cultural phenomenon. And their influence, you can't deny it, it's lasted. So many bands came after, trying to capture some of that magic.
You can still hear it today sometimes.
You really can. Echoes of their sound, that confidence, the big melodies. They didn't just have hits. They became this, cultural touchstone in Britain and a global symbol of 90s rock. Their early success, how fast it happened, it cemented them as more than a band. It was like a movement.
And right at the core of all that, you got to talk about the brothers, right? Liam and Noel Gallagher. That combustible chemistry, as it's often called, almost uncomfortable sometimes.
Oh, absolutely central.
How much of it do you think was the music versus just the constant drama between them?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, the music was undeniable. Noel wrote these amazing songs, and Liam delivered them with that unique swagger.
Nobody sounds like Liam.
Nobody. But their rivalry, it became just as famous almost as entertaining as the songs themselves. It was a massive part of the Oasis myth.
It really was like a soap opera playing out in the music press every week.
Exactly. It wasn't just a band. It was this ongoing drama with an amazing soundtrack. Like reality TV before it was really a thing. Their public fights, their totally different personalities. It didn't put people off. If anything, it just made them more fascinating.
So you got the whole package. Incredible anthems, plus this real-life nonstop drama.
Pretty much. And that dynamic, it perfectly mirrored the sort of volatility and passion in their music. It set them up for the massive highs, but also, inevitably, the crash and burn later on.
Yeah.
For fans, it was always intriguing. What's Liam going to say now? What's Noel going to do? Are they even going to get through the gig tonight?
Yeah, you never knew.
That unpredictability was part of the thrill, wasn't it? So different from the polished pop acts around then. It made them feel real, even when it was chaotic.
Okay, let's talk about those anthems. The songs that really did define a generation, not just in the UK, but for rock fans everywhere. It all kicked off, properly, with the debut album, Definitely Maybe, 1994.
Yeah, what an entrance.
Right. From the first track, it just explodes. It opens with Hello, which is described as just brash and confident. It really sets the tone, like they're kicking the door down.
Absolutely. Definitely. Maybe it wasn't just the debut. It was like their manifesto. Raw, optimistic energy. It felt so fresh, so real.
And it showed Noel Gallagher's songwriting genius right away. What's really interesting is how songs like Live Forever stood out.
Oh, hugely significant, that one.
Yeah, because it wasn't just another rock song. It was like a direct answer to the sort of negativity, the nihilism in grunge music at the time.
Right. You know, a lot of the American rock then was quite dark, grappling with despair. Think about Kurt Cobain's lyrics in Nirvana's I Hate Myself and Want to Die.
Exactly. And then Oasis comes along with Live Forever. It was the total opposite.
Completely. A song of pure hope, resilience, that massive soaring chorus, the optimistic message. It just connected so deeply with people.
It felt like they were saying, you know, we can rise above our circumstances, we can be great. And it really resonated. It offered this different energy, this hope, maybe when people felt a bit lost. A powerful alternative to the moodier stuff.
Yeah, it became an anthem for anyone looking for inspiration, telling you to grab life, be ambitious. And that song particularly cemented their early reputation. They weren't just catchy, they had substance, maybe even a philosophy.
And connecting that globally, it shows how Oasis offered this really specific, confident kind of rock that hit home everywhere. Rock fans, not just UK, but all over, got this uplifting alternative. The lyrics, even when a bit weird.
Yeah, sometimes.
They still tapped into those universal feelings, right? Wanting more, sticking it out.
Definitely. And then, of course, you've got the absolute monster hits, the ones everyone knows. Wonderwall.
Oh, yeah. Can't escape Wonderwall.
Cemented in music history. Written by Noel, but Liam's delivery.
Yeah.
So emotive, almost vulnerable underneath the swagger. It just became the Oasis signature song. That melancholic tune, the lyrics about yearning, it struck a chord everywhere. It's one of those songs that just transcended rock, became part of pop culture. Almost everyone knows it.
It really did cross over. It spoke to those big themes, love, longing. And then you've got Don't Look Back in Anger, another Noel classic, but this time sung by Noel himself.
Right, which gave the band a different texture vocally.
Yeah, it did. And that one, again, became a live staple instantly. That huge, soaring chorus, the optimistic, almost defiant message. Massive hit, often called one of the greatest British rock songs ever.
It really is, and it shows Noel's versatility, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Crafting these distinct, massive anthems for both his own voice and Liam's.
It's just incredible how many huge songs they had and how they covered such a range within that core rock sound. Then there's Champagne Supernova.
Oh, the epic closer.
Yeah, on What's the Story? Morning Glory. Actually, over 7 minutes long. It pulls you into this like psychedelic soundscape.
Layered guitars, wah-wah, feedback.
Right. It wasn't just noisy, it was textured. Liam's vocals are kind of drifting, hypnotic. It showed they could blend their rock power with more experimental stuff, almost 60s-ish, but with that 90s attitude.
And the lyrics were famously enigmatic.
Totally. But evocative. Became a huge fan favorite, a real like cosmic ending to that second album, which was just gigantic.
And you can't forget Roll With It, even though it famously lost the chart battle to Blur.
The Battle of Britpop. Iconic moment.
It still became this enduring anthem of resilience, defiance, really summed up their us against the world thing.
Yeah. And even earlier stuff like Shaker Maker from debut, catchy, laid back, almost psychedelic vibe, showed their range right from the start.
Proved they weren't just a one-trick pony, even then.
It's clear the catalog is just packed, way beyond the big singles. We looked at that Rolling Stone, the 40 Best Oasis Songs list,
Oh, yeah.
and the Reddit discussion it kicked off was, well, predictably passionate.
Uh-huh, I bet. Fans always have opinions on lists.
Oh, definitely. But there was general agreement the top 10 was pretty rock solid. You know, Don't Look Back in Anger, Live Forever, Supersonic, Wonderwall, Acquiesce, Cigarettes and Alcohol, Champagne Supernova, The Master Plan, Rock and Roll Star, some might say. I mean, that's a hell of a top 10.
That is a seriously strong list. What's interesting, though, and it speaks to, like, the quality they maintained, was seeing post-98 songs on that list, too.
Right, beyond that initial Britpop explosion.
Yeah, songs like Little by Little, Lila, The Importance of Being Idle, Go Let It Out. They made the cut. Shows people appreciate the later stuff, too. It wasn't just about those first couple of albums.
And naturally, the fans were very vocal about the glaring omissions.
Always. What did they miss?
People were fired up about Columbia, Rocking Chair, Fade Away, Cast No Shadow, Bring It On Down, Gas Panic, Listen Up. Loads more.
Wow, yeah, those are some great tunes.
It just shows how deep the catalog goes and how varied fan favorites are. One fan literally said, quote, "Seriously, show me another band with as many bangers as this and still not enough room to include Columbia, Gas Panic, Bring It On Down, etc. What a fing band."
Uh-huh. That's passion. And it underlines it, right? They had so many beloved songs, not just the radio hits.
Exactly. It makes you think about how a band's legacy isn't just the chart toppers, it's the deep cuts, the B-sides that cement their status for the hardcore fans, show their artistic depth.
Totally. And the vocal breakdown on that list was interesting, too. Liam on 27 tracks, Noel on 12, both on 1.
Shows their different roles, but also how vital Noel was as a singer, too, not just the writer. Gave the band another dimension.
Yeah, Liam was the iconic frontman, no doubt. But Noel was an equally crucial voice in the band.
Okay, so we've covered the incredible highs, the anthems, the fan devotion, but the Oasis story? It definitely had its lows,
Right.
big ones, leading to that dramatic split.
Yeah, the flip side of the coin.
The pressures of just insane fame, the nonstop fighting, and just, the music scene changing. It all eventually led to their decline.
It almost felt inevitable, didn't it, with those personalities under that much spotlight?
Right, and that internal chaos, it started showing up pretty clearly in the music and how they made it, especially around the third album, Be Here Now, in '97.
Oh, yeah. That's when the tensions really peaked. The recording sessions were apparently awful, constant fighting between the brothers, loads of drugs.
Sounds like a nightmare.
The reports said their relationship was so bad they were barely even speaking, communicating through other people or just ignoring each other.
How do you even make an album like that? You can kind of hear it, right? The album's often described as having this, bloated production, lacking focus, seen as reflecting that internal mess.
It definitely was. Huge hype for that album, but it felt rushed, overcooked. Noel himself admitted later it was bloated and self-indulgent, said it failed to meet those impossibly high expectations after the first 2 records.
Which is fair. Fans and critics, after the initial excitement wore off, mostly agreed. Overproduced, lost some of that sharp brilliance.
What's interesting is how Be Here now went from being massively anticipated to almost symbolizing the band's excesses, their internal problems. A long way from the energy of Definitely, Maybe.
Yeah, and then came Standing on the Shoulder of Giants in 2000. That felt like another shift. Darker, more introspective.
It was. Heavily influenced by Noel getting disillusioned with fame, struggling with substance abuse, led to a much more experimental sound for them.
The sound really did change quite a bit, didn't it? More psychedelic touches, even some electronic bits. A big departure from the straightforward rock anthems.
Yeah, songs like Go Let It Out did okay, but the album got mixed reviews overall. People noted they were trying new things, but maybe missed that huge universal energy of their peak.
It felt like a band searching creatively while dealing with all this personal stuff.
It shows how hard it is for any huge band to evolve under that kind of pressure and internal conflict. Honestly, it's kind of amazing they kept going and making music at all.
True, but the signs of strain, the different directions they were pulling in, it was becoming more obvious.
Yeah, the albums after that had good moments, but you could feel that tension, the erosion of that united front they once had.
And it all just boiled over spectacularly in 2009, the infamous breakup. Noel quits after a backstage fight with Liam at a festival in Paris.
Oh, Sam. Yep.
And it wasn't just like, I quit, it was dramatic.
Oh, classic Oasis.
Yeah.
Loud, messy, totally public. Noel's description of it really sums up their whole relationship.
What did he say again? It was something about a guitar?
Yeah, in an interview a couple of years later, he said Liam was wielding a guitar like an axe, and he's swinging this guitar around, and he kind of, he took my face off with it.
Wow. Just wow. That paints a picture.
Doesn't it? It underlines just how volatile things were. Not just an argument. It got physical. Culmination of years of conflict. Almost cartoonish, but somehow totally believable for them.
Yeah, you can just picture it. And that was it. Game over. Marked the start of a 15-year hiatus for one of the biggest bands on the planet.
Left fans wondering for over a decade, is that really it? Will they ever get back together? And now, finally, we have an answer. Oasis. Reuniting. Tour next summer 2025. British Isles first. This is actually happening.
It is. Presumably that massive, long-running feud between Liam and Noel, it's over. Or at least they've called a truce enough to get on stage together again.
Seems like it. Which is just huge news for rock fans everywhere who've been waiting, maybe not so patiently, for this exact moment.
The reaction was just instant, wasn't it? Overwhelming.
Totally. You saw it happen in real time. Fans went absolutely crazy for tickets. They had to add, 3 extra shows almost immediately?
Yeah, the demand was just insane. Shows how much power and appeal a band like Oasis still has. It's not just nostalgia. People really value them.
Definitely. It's a testament to the music, their legendary status. People aren't just buying tickets. They're buying into this huge cultural event, a piece of history.
And the ticket prices reflect that, right? They know the value.
Oh, yeah. It shows what the market will bear for an iconic reunion like this. London, Cardiff, Edinburgh. Seats are like 74 pounds up to over 200 pounds. That's roughly, $97.11 to $260?
Something like that. And standing?
Standing's around 150 pounds, maybe $200. And Manchester, their hometown, cheapest is $148 to stand. No seated option there. It's not cheap.
No, definitely not a cheap night out, but it clearly hasn't stopped people.
Not at all. And get this, the top package for London is $506. Includes a pre-show party, Oasis exhibition, souvenirs, a premium collectible item.
Wow, that's like $666. That's serious dedication, serious investment.
It is. Even Dublin starts around $86, 50 plus fees, about $96. It just screams massive market appeal. The legend only grew while they were away, and fans will pay to see it live.
And it's funny seeing the brothers fall right back into their old roles with the announcement, isn't it?
Huh? Totally predictable. Liam straight on Twitter firing back at negative comments with stuff like, "Your attitude sucks," and "Shut up."
Classic Liam.
Exactly. Meanwhile, Noel, mostly silent, apart from posting those cryptic teasers beforehand.
That contrast is almost part of the Oasis experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fans expect it.
It really is. Like, they're playing their parts perfectly, feeding the narrative.
And the timing is pretty smart, too. The reunion news drops just as they're about to release the deluxe 30th anniversary edition of Definitely Maybe.
Perfect timing. Capitalizes on all that renewed interest in the debut album, gets old fans reminiscing, maybe pulls in some younger ones who are just discovering them. Great synergy.
Definitely not a coincidence. Leverages that nostalgia perfectly. But even with all the excitement, you still see some skepticism from fans, right? Which is understandable, given the history.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
We saw that comment on Reddit that kind of summed it up perfectly. A mix of hope and, well, realism.
That was it.
Something like, "What's the over-under set on this reunion?" I give it 3 shows before Liam freaks balls about something and starts swinging guitars.
Oh, man. Yeah, that really captures the fan perspective on the Gallagher's history, doesn't it?
It does. Adds that layer of intrigue, maybe even jeopardy to the whole thing. Reminds you that, yeah, the music's legendary, but the personalities, famously volatile.
So the big question remains, can this combustible mix actually hold it together for a whole tour? Or are we heading for another spectacular implosion?
That's the million-dollar question, absolutely. And that question leads us nicely into the bigger picture, the modern music business context.
Yeah.
Because this Oasis reunion, it's not happening in isolation.
Right, it's part of a wider trend.
Exactly. This comeback fits perfectly into how the industry works now. That journal we looked at, the one on the live music business, it specifically mentions that gathering a number of formerly popular artists has grown in popularity, calling it the reunion concert model.
Okay.
And part of the reason, it suggests, is that some artists nowadays focus more on releasing singles rather than full albums.
So they might not have enough material for a big solo stadium show.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
But get the old band back together. Suddenly you've got this massive back catalog of hits everyone loves. Instantly fills a set list, pulls a huge crowd, makes perfect sense, business-wise.
Yeah, logistically. And the journal also talks about the importance of superstars, right?
Crucial point. It basically says, without superstars, There are no concerts that can attract customers to attend as they did in the past. And Oasis, they are undeniably in that superstar category. Their power to draw crowds hasn't faded.
No doubt about that. Still massive appeal globally.
And that global aspect is key, too. The journal notes how foreign artists with a large fan base will help establish the advantage to promoters since there are foreign customers who travel in order to visit the concert.
So people will travel internationally for these big reunions.
Absolutely. That source was looking at Thailand, but the principle is global. Bands like Oasis have fans willing to fly across continents for these shows. That's huge for promoters, huge for revenue. Makes these reunions incredibly valuable. It really shows the global reach and lasting power of a band like Oasis. They're not just a British phenomenon anymore.
Never really were just British, but yeah, even more global now maybe. It's not just about UK ticket sales. It's drawing this international crowd ready to spend big.
Exactly. And the whole music business has had to adapt so much in the last, 20 years? That journal points out how income from selling physical music CDs, vinyl dropped massively between 2004 and 2018.
The bottom fell out of that market.
Which forced labels and artists to rely much more heavily on live concerts to make money to replace that lost income.
So live shows, especially these big reunion tours, become absolutely essential for artists financially.
Fundamentally shifted the model. And things like global recessions also push artists to look for income outside their home countries, expand their fan base internationally. When things are tight at home, you tour abroad.
Makes sense. Calculated moves to maximize income.
And technology obviously plays a huge part. Platforms like YouTube make it super easy to discover, consume, share music, digital downloads, then streaming. It all changed how we access music.
Right. Which you might think would hurt live shows, but maybe it actually helps.
It's kind of a paradox, isn't it? Digital access made listening easier, often cheaper, but it devalued the actual recording sales. So the financial focus shifted hard back to the live experience. And for a band like Oasis, with this massive, beloved catalog, a reunion tour becomes an incredibly valuable asset in today's music world, especially given their legendary status, influencing rock fans across the globe for decades.
So the return isn't just like a nostalgic cultural moment?
No, it's a major economic event in the global live music business. It pulls on that nostalgia, sure, but also on new appreciation from younger fans who found them digitally. Their legendary status plus that global reach makes this reunion a really big deal for the industry. Hashtag outro.
So we've really journeyed through it all, haven't we? The incredible highs, the dramatic lows of Oasis, tried to understand that unique mix, the raw talent, those massive songs, and that undeniable brotherly friction that made them such a cultural touchstone.
Yeah, it's quite a story. And we've seen the absolute clamor for this reunion, which just proves how much they still mean to people, their legendary status, and how it all fits into this changing music industry landscape.
The Gallagher brothers, back together on stage, fueled by this huge fan demand and an industry that knows the value of legendary live acts.
So it's a pretty fascinating moment for rock and roll, really. It makes you think about band longevity, forgiveness maybe, or at least tolerance for touring.
Yeah, tolerance might be the word. But as they step back out there, after 15 long years, that one big question just hangs in the air, doesn't it?
Can that same combustible chemistry that defined their sound and ultimately broke them up, can that now be the thing that pushes their legacy even further? Or will old habits resurface? You know, the backstage dramas, maybe even the odd flying guitar, reminding us that some rivalries just don't die.
It's the ultimate cliffhanger, really.
It is. What does this reunion actually mean for the future of iconic bands? And maybe even for the idea of what an ending means in music anymore. Is anything ever really over?
That's definitely something fascinating for you to think about long after we're done here.